Hello and welcome to Real Men Feel. This is your host, author, coach, and healer, Andy Grant. Real Men Feel is here to remind you that men are human beings and they have the right, the need, and the desire to express and feel all of their emotions. Your authenticity and vulnerability are superpowers. You can learn more about how I help people do that at theandygrant.com. Today, we're going to venture into the kitchen in a talk with Chef Brother Luck. Brother is an award-winning chef, entrepreneur, and advocate for the pursuit of self-discovery. He is on a mission to prove to others that while our past is forever a part of who we are, it does not determine the people that we become. Brother has appeared on Chopped, Beat Bobby Flay, and Top Chef. He also owns 2 restaurants, 4 by Brother Luck and Lucky Dumpling, both located in his home of Colorado Springs. And he has just released his memoir, No Luck's Given. Welcome to Real Men Feel, Chef.
Hey, I'm honored. Thank you for the amazing intro.
Well, it's your amazing life I'm talking about, so it's got to come full circle, right? So
it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
What got you first interested in cooking?
I got into cooking out of necessity. I was looking for food. I was food insecure, so to find the opportunity to have a steak sandwich every night, that's really where it started. So I got into restaurants. They kind of adopted me. My father had passed away when I was young. My mother was lost to the streets, and kitchens is where I found a home. It's where I found a family, and that turned in shortly into a career.
And so how old were you when you discovered that the kitchens were a safe place for you?
Yeah, I started working in kitchens when I was 14 years old. I used to get paid under the table, cash in a steak sandwich, maybe crash on a bartender's couch. And by the time I was 16, I was fully engulfed in culinary. I was in a vocational school in Phoenix, Arizona. It was one of the programs where you had the choice of choosing an elective. You could take cosmetology, you could become a mechanic, you could take electrician, but I chose culinary because it was a guaranteed meal every day. And I had no idea that these grown men that I got to apprentice under at that time were going to become such strong mentors for me who really helped me build my own confidence.
So that relationship went beyond student and teacher.
Yeah, for me, I didn't want to become a chef until they told me I was good at cooking. And I think that's what a good mentor can do. They can insert themselves into your life and make you feel confident about yourself. And for me, it was about chasing that next, piece of approval. I wanted that next nod, that next validation. And I did whatever it took to make chef go, nice job. So there was a lot of being yelled at in between all of that, but it builds character.
So prior to chefs telling you, nice job, was there anybody in your life that conveyed a positive message to you?
Well, they weren't positive. They were negative. I was in the streets. So to hang out with the pimps, to hang out with the drug dealers, to hang out with the gangbangers, these are people who all wanted something from you. They wanted to use you to do things for them. And a lot of it wasn't positive. So, between my father passing when I was 10 years old to eventually landing in kitchens and culinary at 16, there was a number of years where I had the wrong role models, I had the wrong mentors.
How did you realize that? What told you that I'm following the wrong people, or now I found the right people?
It wasn't, I don't think I realized I was following the wrong people until I started to remove myself from that environment and they started to seek me out. Where are you at? How come you're not coming around? Oh, you're a sellout. As soon as I was excluded from that environment because I removed myself from it, I realized that wasn't the path for me. And when you kind of step to the side and you observe, you can see what's going on in the world. And it was an endless cycle of people ending up dead or in jail.
Now, traditionally, cooking has predominantly been seen as women's work, yet most of the top chefs, the famous chefs, are all men. So how does that discrepancy come about?
Yeah, I think most professional kitchens for a number of years have been a male-dominated role, right? Chef means chief. This means leadership. You are responsible for running a brigade. Kitchens actually got their brigade system from the military. There was a French chef who came out the military, saw the disorganization, and he added that into the very first Ritz-Carlton. And he said, we need somebody to report to somebody. And it's a great way to fall in line as far as running a kitchen. But yeah, as the years have passed, I mean, some of my greatest mentors have actually been women in the kitchen. Like, they're way more hardcore than most men I work for.
Cool. Now, you mentioned your time on the streets. So was finding refuge, was going into the culinary arts? Was that looked upon well from people on the streets, the people from your past?
No, I think as I kind of started to decide I wanted to pursue cooking, I got a lot of negativity, and they didn't understand it. And I was kind of at that point where it wasn't for them to understand. This was for me. I realized, I probably wasn't going to be going on any type of scholarship. I didn't have anything lined up for college. I was just trying to make it through the day, and to actually start finding the desire to want to do something beyond high school. That was exciting. When they told me I could go to college for cooking, and like that was like a textbook. I was going to get a book on meat. I was going to get a book on potatoes. I'm in. Like that sounds like a really cool book. That's way better than algebra.
I agree. Cool. Is it a difficult leap to go from chef to celebrity chef with all of your TV appearances?
At first, I think it is. I think, being thrust into the limelight, whether you're an athlete, you're a TV personality, or you're a celebrity actor, I think being thrust into the limelight is hard, because there's a certain level of comfort that people have that is unfamiliar. It's kind of like, you don't know me, but I've been vulnerable enough to share a piece of my story with you, so you do kind of know me. And you kind of have to roll with that, and in today's age with social media and the way they have the ability to comment immediately on what they feel. You kind of have to take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt, but it's not real. Like celebrity chef is not real. Like, I still have to walk my dog. I still got to mow the lawn. I still got to do the dishes. Like, I still got to run the everyday things in my life. So it's not like I have this, amazing, crazy, celebrity lifestyle. Like that's a glimpse. That's 10% of my day.
Yeah. So your memoir is titled "No Lucks Given." What does that title mean?
I got no lucks left to give. Like, and it was being PC with it. Because I was at wit's end, as far as breaking point. Like, I think as men, we have this tendency to think talking about our emotions makes us look weak. So we hide them, we shove them down. And eventually it's going to break you. You can only tap into those fears and those struggles and that anger for so long until eventually you break. And I think for the longest time, for motivation, I was using my fear, I was using my anger to motivate me to get through the next project, to fuel me. And it was draining me. It's exhausting. When you drop a wall and you have to tap into something on the other side of that wall, you have to let whatever was over there come in, and that's going to tax you. And at some point, I finally broke, and I think that was a moment in my life where I realized I needed to make some changes. And I think our stories are meant for other people. It's not meant for us. We have to share it.
I'm going to ask, what motivated you to write your story? So it was really to share your experience.
Yeah, and I think it's more than just having a tough childhood. It's making the decision to persevere. It's making the decision to write a new story every morning, to not give up, to find hope, and then eventually to begin to understand who I am as a person, and get into the emotional and the trauma and the PTSD and all these things that we carry on our shoulders for so long, until eventually you break. And how many people are breaking without talking about it?
Was perseverance a natural skill for you, or was that something you needed to learn?
No, I'm a survivor. I mean, what I've been through in my life, as far as not really having any parental figures, being around the people that I was around, doing the things that I was doing, I'm a survivor. And that mindset has always kept me from ever giving up. Like, I don't quit. I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep getting up. I'm gonna keep swinging. And when I first learned that word perseverance, it just was powerful. I was like, that's me in a nutshell.
So you mentioned your dad passing away when you were 10. So were your first 10 years stable, and then that was a big breaking point? Or, what was your childhood like?
Yeah, I think when you're in a household where, you're just a kid, you're innocent, you don't know what's wrong, what's not. And, for me, growing up in San Francisco, like, city lifestyle was a city lifestyle. There wasn't anything that I thought as like being troubled or challenged. until later when you realize, oh, there is some wounds, there is some scars there is some things that happen that I need to address, that sat on my timeline for a long time.
So you've mentioned a few times that you hit your breaking point, and was that once you had started your career? Was that as an adult?
Yeah, I was filming my second season of Top Chef, and I got into a dark place. I was dealing with a lot of things in my life, as far as relationship, as far as emotional things that I had been running from, and getting on Top Chef the second time, getting kicked off, it triggered something I didn't expect. The PTSD was immediately just put into action after finding that rejection, and kind of just being like, I don't have anything left to give. And the thing about being on those shows is you're in what's called a sequester. So as soon as you get kicked off the show, they put you in a hotel room, and allow you to kind of like have a timeout. But they want to keep you around because they still need to do some filming, some pickups. But you're disconnected from your world. You don't have a phone. You don't have a key card. You don't have your wallet. You're just kind of at the mercy of production. And I found the lowest point in my life of a bottle and some pills. And fortunately, I was able to wake up the next morning, and that was kind of that moment of looking in the mirror and saying, I got to make some serious changes in my life, because that split-second decision that I made last night could have affected a lot of people. I think a lot of us hit that point where we hide it because we don't want to be labeled. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to be judged. It's hard for a lot of people, especially men.
Do you find that who can be the worst judge of brother, other people or yourself?
Absolutely myself. I'm my worst critic. I'm my worst demon. But I think what I've learned is an enemy is always going to separate you from the pack. To watch a lion separate a gazelle, to get the higher ground, to get you against a wall, to get you by yourself. You're easy prey at that point. You're an easy target. So I think when we're dealing with our enemies, whether it's ourself or it's spiritual, at the end of the day, being isolated is the worst thing that you can do. And we have to realize we need a pack. We need an army around us. We need a team around us. We need, our 12. And that's something that's so important for me is to realize, like, don't fall victim to, being pushed into this corner by yourself, because you're not alone.
Is a professional kitchen a sort of a family that is supportive of your mental health, or is that rare to find?
Yeah, I think kitchens now, professional kitchens now, are becoming very aware of emotional responsibilities that they have for their staff, and I think that's something that's so important as we move forward. But for a long time, it wasn't. You're talking harsh environments. You're talking screaming, yelling, pans throwing, flames going on. There's pressure. There's stress. There's a constant demand of focus, pay attention, let's go. We can't stop. Eventually you get into this habit of you're just going to numb yourself until the next shift. And I want to see that change in my industry. So it's one of the reasons I'm so vocal about mental health is we shouldn't have to numb ourselves until the next shift. That's not healthy.
So how is your kitchen different?
We talk about things. First it starts at the top, right? You have to lead from the front. So I'm very open and vulnerable about my story and what I'm going through. And I think that's kind of a big step into the right direction. We create unique opportunities to have more discussions, to change thought process and dynamic. One of the things that we do every year is Sober Week, where I make the decision not to drink. I make the decision to be completely sober for the whole week. And I'm going to host a series of early morning activities for us to all get together to really just prevent you from wanting to go out at night. But then, the team building there, and it's everything from mental health discussions with counselors to kickball tournaments, restaurant versus restaurant, serving in the community, yoga in the restaurant. We've done all kinds of things throughout the last couple of years as we've done Sober Week to just change the dialogue. It's okay to choose a different lifestyle than what has been presented to you for so many years, and this is the expectation of what you think it is.
Yeah, cool. Totally agree. And how have those new activities been met by your staff and the community?
It's been absolutely well received. It's been amazing. People have been so just, supportive of everything that we're doing. I learned a long time ago that restaurants mean to restore. It comes from the word restore. So it's about restoring your community. And I'm heavily involved in my community, which is why my restaurants are successful in my community. They support us because we support them. We're engaged. We know what's going on, whether it's at-risk youth or it's domestic violence or it's our military. All of those things are part of our business that we're involved in.
Now, when you reach the status of someone like yourself, you're an author, you're a celebrity chef, you're a business owner, do you still find time to enjoy cooking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think cooking's a never-ending lesson, and it's a beauty that it's part of my career, it's part of my job. But at the end of the day, I think there's something so special about being able to learn from so many cultures, so many years, so many ingredients. You could spend lifetimes in the kitchen and never learn everything. So, it's constant education. So anytime I cook, I'm learning something about the food, or I'm connecting to the ghost of my past, the grandparents and the ancestors who left these recipes for me to read. That there's something special about that.
I had already put on my vulnerable shirt today, and then I
I love
saw
it.
a line attributed to you that if you're going to be one thing, be vulnerable.
Yes.
So tell me what that means to you.
Yeah, I think vulnerability is courage. I think it takes a lot to be vulnerable, to put yourself out there. As a chef, I do it every day with my restaurants. I'm judged on every plate I serve. Someone's paying for an experience, and they're going to give us their feedback most of the time. So, you have to learn how to be vulnerable and learn how to embrace it. And I think the fear that is surrounded by vulnerability is a part that you've got to eventually learn to embrace. Fear will never go away, but you can learn to manage it. And I think when you learn to manage fear, and accept those butterflies, then it can push you into completely different, realms of success.
I imagine being a chef, owning your own restaurant, it's got to be really challenging to take that judgment plate by plate, person by person. So have you ever outgrown that kind of taking it personally if someone doesn't like a meal?
Yeah, I think there's certain parts where my job is to train my staff. My job is to give a solid education. I provide three things to my team: tools, training, support. And I want, if I can confidently say that I've given those three things to each one of my team members, I support what they're doing. The difference now is it's not just me as it was 10 years ago when I started my businesses. 10 years ago, it was just me cooking, and I took everything personally because I cooked it. Now I have 50 employees, and I'm training 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. They don't have 25 years of cooking experience, so I can't take something like that personally. I have to take the training personally, and that's kind of where we start.
I wonder if you come across 16-year-olds that remind you of yourself, that are looking for
Oh,
that safe place, that chance.
all the time. I spoke to 300 high school students yesterday, and I was blown away by how engaged they were for 45 minutes. And I see so many of them of my and from myself to them, I see it. Whether it's the scared child, it's the traumatized, victim, it's the egotistical street kid, um, or the person who's just trying to find their way. Like, I see so many different elements of myself and so many other people, but I think that's what being a good mentor is helping other people find courage in themselves.
Do you believe that courage is actually within everybody?
I do. I think the moment you can accept that there's only one you, there's never going to be another version of you out there. That recipe is one of a kind. And the moment you can look yourself in the mirror, the moment you can smile back at that person and tell that person that you love them, that's powerful. That's confidence. That's courage. And I think we need more people feeling empowered to look themselves in the eye, because I think a lot of us can't. Right, where we have shame, we have trauma, we have insecurities, and a lot of us just hide it. And that's not it's not the way to deal with it. You know, you're never going to get past where you are today if you don't begin to deal with yesterday.
When you're talking to young people, to teenagers and perhaps even younger, are you still saying them getting the same message to like just keep it yourself, shut up, don't share, like shame is more important than anything else?
You know, until recently, yes. I had a young teenager just the other day. I was speaking in Brooklyn, and the kid said, you know, it's actually the opposite. He goes, kids my generation now are going on social media and not glorifying how cool their lifestyle is. They're complaining about how bad their life is for attention. And I think that's a completely different mindset of where a lot of our generations were to where they are today. I mean, to constantly have a platform to talk about how tough life is and then have people console you. They're getting fed something on these platforms that isn't real, and it's not addressing the real problem.
So as someone that had the traumatic childhood, had lots of insecurities, not sure of your path, how did the suicide of Anthony Bourdain, you know, a top celebrity chef, how did that impact you?
What's the craziest thing? You know, the night I tried to kill myself, and I woke up the next morning, my TV was still on in my hotel room, and the newscast was the announcement of Anthony Bourdain committing suicide in a hotel room. That was what I woke up to as a chef on a TV show, competing in front of millions on national television. Like that was such a punch in the face as far as, you know, this is real. And he didn't wake up. I did. That's something to be said. That was a moment of clarity, you know, call it divine intervention.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm a suicide attempt survivor myself, and I know that waking up after an attempt and, you know, not sure of what, but that not only your survival, but then seeing someone else in such similar circumstances not survive. Yeah, I can't imagine what that day felt like for you.
Yeah, it's hard. And you know, there's so much shame associated with it because I'm broken and I'm selfish and it's about me. It's not about anyone else. But then you realize how many people can be affected. And I know the effects. I've had, you know, family members and friends that have made that decision and been successful. So, you know, I mean, that's one of the hardest parts about living with it now is talking about it and knowing how it affects other people now, because you've broken trust, right? You shared it. That was your choice. That was your decision to leave and end it all and stop the pain. And, you know, how does that make your spouse feel? How does that make your family feel? You know, that they weren't good enough for you to stick around. Like, and that's not the case, but some of us are so broken on the inside, we get to that point. And, you know, I think when you have mediums to start to numb common sense, it's pretty legit.
So that day with Anthony's news in front of you, with your own experience just barely behind you, what did you do? Like, how did you share immediately with people? Did you just sit with yourself for days? What was your next
No,
steps?
you know, my first step was tears. You know, I remember looking in the mirror and crying in the bathroom, like just shame, looking at myself. Then it turned into, you know, I reached out to the producers that, you know, I was on the show with and told them, hey, I need help. I can't stay here, and I would like to speak to the therapist. And they got me in touch with a therapist on a conference call, and told them where I was, and they let me go home, and let me out of my contract. And I still I didn't deal with what sparked it all. I went right back into work. I went right back into being so busy. I didn't feel anything. Right? It's a different type of addiction. It's a different type of medication, work. And you know, eventually, I had one conversation with my therapist coming home, and he told me something that I didn't expect. He said, "You know, brother, this is probably the first time you chose you in that survivalist mentality. You know, you've been a victim for so long, you usually just resort to getting behind the wall. And this time you actually spoke up and said, no, I need help. He goes, that's a big step. It's showing that you now are aware of where you are with your mental health. And that was a moment of empowerment.
Yeah, I've often said that sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is ask for help.
Yeah, yeah, we have to ask for help. I mean, good leaders, good warriors, they do it with a team. If you want to go far, go by yourself. You want to go fast, go by yourself. You want to go far, go with a team.
Is there one or two things that worked well for you in your growth, your recovery, whatever you want to call it, that you would want to recommend to others?
I think what's helped me the most has been, understanding that it's a constant battle. Like, it's not that something you just won yesterday, or you overcame that demon. This is something you live with. This is something that's constant, but there's an awareness now. And I think the moment you can accept the awareness is the moment you have to make a choice. And every morning I wake up and make a choice. Today's a fresh page. I got a pen. What story am I going to write? I get to choose that story. And when I feel those moments coming on where I want to hide, I want to isolate myself, I'm feeling that funk overcome me. I have to choose that, am I going to stay there or am I not? Because it can last for weeks, and it's horrible, and it's such a tough way to live, because we take it out on the ones we love the most. Like, they don't deserve to catch the brunt of it because we think they're not going to go anywhere because they love us. Eventually we're going to break down, and that's not right. So make a choice. I think that's, if there's any advice I can give to somebody, be aware of your awareness.
Yeah, awareness is really key, and something I was blind to for a long time. And also the notion of empowerment and taking each day, because I was, sounds like you, I was like on for a long time on this automatic pilot of waking up, oh, another day, it's gonna fucking suck like the last one, and just that's the autopilot we can be on. And it takes choice, it takes empowerment, it takes us deciding, no, I'm gonna consciously choose something different. And I find because it's a new conscious choice, it can take a lot of effort, but eventually that becomes autopilot, like, oh, good, another day, sweet, right? Is that your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, and I see too, as I started to release this book and I've had people give me feedback on the book, they're like, I had no idea, which tells you how well I hit it.
Yeah.
I was broken on the inside, but nobody was worthy of me sharing that with. And eventually, I couldn't handle it. And I wonder how many other people are feeling like that, and they feel crazy until they hear somebody else was going through the same thing. For me, it started in a men's group. When I heard a whole bunch of other grown men talk about like where they were, with insecurities and fear, I realized I wasn't crazy. All these years, I thought I've been like that, just internally. No, everyone. A lot of people go through those same feelings, and these are strong men. These are soldiers. These are farmers. These are strong men that I respect, and to hear them talk about some of those things just gave me some more encouragement.
Yeah, in my experience, the strongest men have the strongest feelings, and everything else is a freaking mask and a lie.
Yeah. Yeah, we create a perception. What do you want the world to see? And for the longest time, I created this perception of Chef Brother Luck. Chef Brother Luck for a long time was the opposite of who I was as a person. Outgoing, very vocal, entertaining, always on stage. But in reality, I'm a very antisocial person. I'm a hoodies and a headphone kind of guy. And I created something that I was extremely uncomfortable with in my work life. And I don't know if that was meant to embrace it, but it was to a point where my wife goes, who am I talking to? Am I talking to Chef or am I talking to brother? And I didn't like that. I didn't like that there was two personas that I was living, because I was creating this perception of the world.
So is there one Brother Luck these days?
Yeah, it was one Brother Luck. And it finally got to a point where I realized I didn't have any friends. And when I told my wife that, she goes, well, you created that. You're too busy for everyone. You've made it very clear you're Chef and you work, and that's your priority. And people stop inviting you to stuff because they just assume, because you never come anyway. So I had to make the decision again to be aware and to choose to pick up the phone, to choose to initiate the conversations, to revisit my circle and rebuild my circle and rebuild the relationships that, I had lost. I mean, some of that stuff was so petty. It's easy to fix, but it took, a willingness, it took a vulnerability. And it's because I wanted to be me. I didn't want to have to be chef and then I wanted to be brother. Like that's too much work.
So you mentioned speaking a couple times already. So is that the brunt of your mental health advocacy work?
Absolutely. I whether it's small groups, we host small groups here at my restaurants every week for restaurant workers to come in and talk about where they're at as a safe space, no matter which level you're at, from ownership to dishwasher. Or it's talking with high schools, or it's speaking at corporate events, or even on pages. I mean, to me, it's be vocal about what you've got to say, and you can help a lot of people by sharing your story, because people need to realize that they're not alone.
Brother, is there a best way for people to find out more about you and learn more about the book?
Yeah, you can always check me out at Chef Brother Luck across the board on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff. And then our website, chefbrotherluck.com, direct link to, our restaurants, our store, our story, or just Google my name. It's a crazy name. So it's pretty much about me, which is awesome.
Yeah, you're not getting mistaken for other people, other Brother Lucks.
There's not many. There's not many.
Very cool. And one more question. What's one thing you wish more men knew?
I wish more men knew the freedom of the tear. I think to allow your emotions to be expressed is actually very healthy, to release it. Otherwise it's bottled up, it's inside, and it's going that door is going to get, it's going to burst. Don't get to that point. You're not weak. You're not weak for expressing emotions.
Amen. Awesome. I would love to see someone open a restaurant called that. Well, thanks so much for your time. I know you're a very busy man. Best of luck with the book launch and speaking engagements. And everyone else, thanks for wherever you're listening and discovering Real Men Feel. Thanks for listening, tuning in. Please subscribe, follow, like, share this with somebody, put a review, a comment. You can always reach out to me at realmenfeel@gmail.com. Always glad to hear from you. And until next time, be good to yourself. And if that means letting some tears flow, please do it.
Let them flow.